Today, of course, our plan is first to discuss the quiz. Quiz number 1. That is at the end of this Word document. Last week I gave you 2 documents. No, end of these 2 documents, Word document, you have this quiz. That is after this diagram. Yeah. Quiz number 1, practice question number 1. We briefly discuss this. Actually, I will give you the 20 minutes time. After that, we will discuss the answers. This is the normal practice. At the end of every lesson, I give you practice question, or sometimes it is called quiz. Then we'll discuss the quiz. After that, continue with the normal lesson. Right. Today, of course, before that, I will give the summary. This is a Word document. I didn't discuss. Last week, I discussed on the PowerPoint presentation. Same thing. Same concepts are there, but more detailed version is there. First, we discuss the factors of production. Then after that, basic production question, what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. Then we discuss the economic systems. We didn't discuss, but yeah, that is a new addition. If you take all the countries in the world, all the economic system, all the countries in the world, we can classify it according to into basically 3 main systems. These are very old classification, but it is valid. The 3 main systems. Number 1, centrally planned economic systems, like in China, relatively. China, you can't say it is 100%. Cuba, China, they are centrally planned economic system. Then most of these the economic decisions are taken by the government. All the factors of productions are owned by the government. The wages and prices are determined by the government. Right? Private sector activities are very minimal level. Right? After that, the other end, you have the free enterprise economic system like Singapore, USA, Japan. Their economic system is coming under this free enterprise economic system. Almost all the economic decisions are taken by the private sector. Almost all. The government intervention is at a very minimal level. Right? Then the factors of productions are owned by the government. Sorry, private sector. Private sector. Decisions are taken by, prices are determined by the interaction between demand and supply forces. Demand for labor, supply of labor determine the wages. Demand for bread, supply of bread determine the price of bread, like that. Then a mixed economy says some decisions are taken by the private sector, some are by the government. We have government schools, private schools. We have private sector bus services, government bus services, right? Then that is mixed economies. Private sector take their decision, private hospitals, government hospitals. Government takes decision for the government hospitals. Private sector take decision, their wages, the prices, how to hire, the hiring policy, firing policy. All the policies are determined by the private sector in the case of private hospital. Government hospital, different set of rules. The ARFR is applicable. Then after that, we discuss this positive versus normative economics, micro versus macroeconomics, then the production possibility frontier. Last week we discussed. That is on PowerPoint presentation. Here also we discussed. Then the production possibility frontier characteristic, they are concave to the origin. Then generally the production possibility frontier, you have 3 points about the production possibility frontier. Point C, unattainable point because resources are not enough. Point A, attainable, but resources are inefficiently allocated. Unemployed resources are there. Point B, efficient allocation. All the resources are employed, no unemployment, right? That is because the production possibility frontier is a very simple economic tool. You can discuss, you can illustrate various advanced economic concepts, efficiency, employment, growth. Economic growth is shifting of the production possibility frontier to the right in the case of growth, to the left in the case of the contraction. Then this is the last diagram. Now we will move to this practice question number 1. Brief answers. Very brief answer. First question, you have around the up A to I. Then after that, classify statements. If it is normative, put N. Normative is facts. If A happens, B will be the results. In the case of, positive. If A happens, B will be the result. If more rains comes, drought will end. That's all. Then the normative means, then if you have your own judgments, right? Whether it is good or bad, own policy prescriptions, right? You extend that. Last week we discussed few examples. So you classify the following statements. N, if it is normative, put N within brackets, put P within brackets. Indicate that. You take a separate paper and answer that, right? Separate paper and answer that. Going through these answer scripts. Number 2 is a very easy. Then the micro, M-I-M-A, micro. In the microeconomic, we see the economy through a microscope. You can say small thing, consumer, producer, market, different markets, market for each product. Then macro, big things, micro, unemployment, balance of payment, national accounts, exchange rate. These are macro issues. The macro, M-I-M-A. Then define the following terms. Last thing, question number 5. Right, question number 5 is a very easy question. Long para is that. Okay, I will give you now. Its time. Its time is 10:36. 10:36. 35. 10 minutes. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. 35. 45. 55. Yeah. 55. 10:55. 10:55. 45, 55, 11 o'clock we'll discuss. 11 we'll discuss. I will give half an hour. Please answer this question. Take a separate paper and just mark. You can use this open book exams. You can use your notes. You can discuss with your friends. No, they are not the close by, no. So, but anyway, you can use your notes, books, and answer. Okay. Now we'll start. 11 o'clock we will discuss the answers. Okay. Right. Please start now. 11 is okay here. 11 is okay here. Right. Okay. Less than half an hour. Okay. Please start writing. Now the first question, give brief answers, 2 more minutes, to the following questions. In short, what is the fundamental problems? It should be fundamental problem, right? Cortes dealt within economics. Last week we said scarcity. Scarcity of resources in relation to human wants. Complete answer, scarcity. If you write scarcity, that's enough. Or if you give the detailed answer, scarcity of resources in relation to human wants, that is much better. Sarath said, part B, Sarath said opportunity cost of attending the IABF class today is watching IPL match between Rajasthan Royals and Mumbai Kings. Kumar said, my opportunity cost is the sum of tuition fees, bus fares, food and some other miscellaneous items. Who is right? Sarath or Kumar? Tell me. Sarath or Kumar? Who is right? Sarath or Kumar? This is the question about the opportunity cost. Sarath said one thing, Kumar said another thing. Who is right? Sarath or Kumar? What do you think?
Sarath.
Good, very good. Sarath is correct. Why is that? What is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost of best foregone alternative. Attending this IABA class, you forego something. That is the IPL match. Maybe some other things also. Maybe visiting your friends, where some relatives' place, they're doing washing. But this for Sarath, this is the best foregone alternative is the watching IPL match. So therefore, Sarath is strictly speaking about opportunity cost. What about Kumar? Kumar said, my opportunity cost is sum of tuition fees, bus fares, food and some other miscellaneous. These are direct costs. These are not foregone costs. You have to attend, if you want to attend IBL classes, you must incur this cost. So, tuition fees, bus fares, food and some other, it is not a foregone. Right? So therefore, Sarath is correct. Good. Evaluate this statement. Saudi Arabia can pump, part C, all the oil that it needs. Therefore, consumption of oil is free in Saudi Arabia. Statement. Saudi Arabia can pump all the oil that it needs. One of the leading the OPEC country, there are lots of oil. Therefore, consumption of oil is free in Saudi Arabia. What do you think? True or false? Evaluate means true or false. You agree or disagree? Answer? Yes? Another gentleman? Answer? Yes? Anybody? True or false? There are lots of oil, therefore the Saudi Arabia can pump all the oil it needs. Because Saudi Arabia is an interesting country, because Saudi Arabia oil deposits are very close to the surface. But in other countries, you have to dig very deep to get oil, extract oil. But Saudi Arabia, these oil deposits are very close to their cost of extraction. Cost is relatively very small. That's why they can make a lot of profits, right? Other countries, you have to dig a little more. So therefore, the Saudi Arabia, but it's the giant. Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, the giant in the OPEC organization, right? Then, what do you think? True or false? Consumption of oil is free in Saudi Arabia. True or false?
False.
Good. Why is that?
Because
Correct.
just because there is enough oil, that doesn't mean that they can give it free.
Okay. Okay. Why? What is the foregone cost? You have a good point actually. What is the foregone cost of domestic consumption? If you give them free, you can consume oil domestically, but you forego something. What does that mean? What is you forego? You sacrifice. What is that? Sorry? Yeah?
Opportunity cost.
Yeah, opportunity cost is, what is the opportunity cost of consuming oil domestically in Saudi Arabia? Right? Or giving, yeah, what is that? Instead of domestic consumption, you can export and earn foreign exchange. Earn foreign exchange. Therefore, opportunity cost of this consumption, domestic consumption is the income, foreign income, export income that you lose. That is the opportunity cost. If you give free, you can't give free, because the domestic consumption always has an opportunity cost, export earnings. Therefore, you can't say it is free. Everything has an opportunity cost. Understand? Everything has an opportunity cost. Domestically consumed, consumption means you forego export earnings. You export earnings. Therefore, you can't say it is domestically free. That's the opportunity cost. Right? Saudi Arabia. Right? These are lots of news about Saudi Arabia and Dubai. Now this clashing, lots of the arguments are there. Saudi Arabia now, you can go to CNN and read these things. Dubai is earlier Dubai is a trade center. Now Saudi Arabia recently introduced new policies, because all the giants, Microsoft and other the airlines, big companies, you have to set up their mother companies in Saudi Arabia. Then only you can get all the benefits. Not in Dubai. So most of these Dubai companies are now shifting to Saudi Arabia, right? So the lots of arguments, interesting arguments are there. Tax policies. The Saudi Arabia is now the little bit liberalizing. They are giving now ladies can drive, then ladies can go to cinema, ladies can play, watch the football matches. So lots of restrictions were there in Saudi Arabia. Now they are relaxing, liberalizing the policy. Then nowadays it is now the Saudi Arabia want to become a giant in the Middle East, right? If you want to become giant, you have to relax so many the restrictions, right? That the the prince is a young guy. Is the now understand that thing. He now is gradually liberalizing the economy, right? Please go through. Very interesting things will be there. Now Dubai is the dominance will diminish. Saudi Arabia will be the next giant in the Middle East, right? That's why their policy. Okay. So the consumption of oil has opportunity cost. Therefore, it is not free. The oil price has dropped to historically low level to around $20 per barrel as a result of COVID-19. What are the possible reasons? Okay. Now I am asking question, what is the ongoing current oil price of a barrel of oil? Anybody know? What is the price? Price of oil, are you aware? If you go to Google and then type what is the oil price, they will definitely give you. What is the oil price these days? Oil price? How much? Nearly $80 per barrel. Because of at the initial stage of COVID-19, demand for oil went down drastically. Demand went down, price there as a result, price went down to $20 per barrel. Now it is rising, demand is gradually rising. The countries are coming out with the COVID problem, COVID issue, pandemic. Then now demand is rising, the oil is now becoming expensive. That is one of the reasons why the Sri Lanka also revised upward revision of this oil price. It was 20, it came, now it's coming up. Oil price has dropped to historical low level to around $20. What are the reasons? Yes, drop in demand. Why demand dropped? Mainly tourism drop. Less exports. People movement of goods and services between countries drop. As a result, demand for oil went down. As a result, price dropped. Movement of goods, movement of people, movement of manufacturing exports drop. Standstill. World was standstill. As a result, you don't want oil, right? Even under this in the case of pandemic situation, countries put so many restrictions on the domestic residents, right? No parties. You are not going to be permitted to go to beaches. You are permitted to go to the pubs. So again, oil consumption dropped, demand for oil dropped, right? Now it is picking up. Now they are relaxing the economies. Now the demand for oil increasing, the price is rising. Another reason is now the OPEC countries, now they are restricting the oil the daily production. That also one of the reasons, supply restrictions also. That is one of the reasons now it is rising, right? Earlier, demand dropped. Drop in demand was the main reason, drop in demand for oil. Economic scarcity exists only in socialist countries because of the lack of incentives to produce. Do you agree? Explain briefly. Do you agree? We said the scarcity is the basic unique problem. It is everywhere. Every society has the problem. Every country has to face this problem. Not only the socialist countries or capitalist countries. Everywhere, scarcity of resources in relation to human wants is there. So why is that? The main reason is human wants are unlimited. We are greedy. People are greedy. People are insatiable. You cannot satisfy people's wants. So that is the normal behavior of people, citizens, right? That is the reason. But resources are scarce. This is a fact. This fact is there everywhere in the world. Every country has to face this problem. So not only socialist countries or the capitalist countries, statement is false. We don't agree. You can give the reason. Why is what to produce a problem in every economy? Because of scarcity of resources. Scarcity of resources force countries to decide what goods and services to produce. Should we produce space shuttle? Should we produce tea, rubber, coconut, or the housemaids, right? That is the one. What is difference between a good and a service? Good and a service. Good and a service. So the answer to the part F is scarcity of resources. That's why it is a problem. What is the difference between a good and a service? Last week we discussed good is already produced. So you all said that good is tangible. Tangible you can see. Good has has a price. Good has an opportunity. The owner, but service can't be seen. Okay, good can be seen. Another important difference is good is already produced, but service is produced on demand. You go to a doctor, you consultant, and then you start telling him your problem. Then he discuss with you. Then he start to prescribe the medicines, right? On demand. Service, haircuts, laundry services. These are on demand The other one is the good is already produced, right? Difference. What is the service performed by a bank? That's also we discussed. Bank link two parties. Those who are in individuals, company, those who are in excess of money, and those who are in need of money, or the depositors and the investors. The link. They give the service. That is called financial intermediation. Is the name that is given to this service performed by a bank. They accept deposit from the people, those who are in excess of money. They give, of course, the return deposit rate. Then they lend this money at a higher rate to the investors. By doing that, they make money. Commercial banks, the bank's profit proportionate to the interest rate differential, lending and the deposit rate. You lend money to 20%, accept deposit at 10%. Gap is the profit, right? Nowadays, of course, the deposit rate is around 4%. Maybe lending rate is about 8%. 8 and 4. Gap is that one. Okay. Financial intermediation. Last one. Why does not Sri Lanka produce space shuttles? Last time we discussed opportunity cost, huge opportunity cost. Last time I said that approximately medium size the space shuttle cost around 500 million US dollars. 500 million, very small case, right? Maybe more than that. If you send the space shuttles to the Mars, maybe it's cost more. 200,000 million dollars, like that. Because if you want to produce a space shuttles, the amount of goods and services that has to be cut down to produce a space shuttle is huge. In the case of an activity, opportunity cost is cost of best foregone alternative. In the case of a production of a good space shuttle is the amount of other goods and services that has to be cut down to produce one space shuttle. That is huge. Therefore, we don't produce. That's very important. The law in trade economics, that is the comparative law of comparative advantage. Countries, those who have low opportunity cost, countries will produce the items that have a low opportunity cost, right? And export. We don't produce space shuttles. Why? Opportunity cost is huge. We produce tea when compared to we produce garments when compared to the US. But US produce space shuttles. Their opportunity cost is lower than us, right? Therefore, they produce space shuttles. We don't produce space shuttles, right? Normative versus the positive. The rate of inflation has fallen below 10% per annum. A number is there. Using central bank or the published numbers, you can check what is inflation rate. So it is a fact, a number. Therefore, it is a positive statement. See the second one. Because inflation has fallen, the government should now expand its activity. Judgments. One can say no, government should not expand, right? That's the judgment. Second statement is normative. First statement, positive. Understand? When you give your own judgments, policy prescriptions, it becomes normative. People in the UK are happier than people in India. Normative. Normative. People in the UK are happier than people in India. No, one can argue, no, India, even though their per capita income is very low, their poverty, they are poor, but they are happy. You have freedom, right? So you can talk, you can write, right? You can do lots of things, right? Movements, right? You have the good weather, right? So you can go out, right? You have Ganga and lots of other the rivers. You can enjoy the environment, right? Like that, you can say people in India are happier than UK people. It is normative, judgments. But if you say next statement, per capita GDP is higher than that in India. Gross domestic product, per capita income. Yes, it is a fact. You can go through their annual report, central bank annual report, country performance, and see per capita GDP is higher in UK than India. It's a fact. Positive. Economics is more interesting than business mathematics. Normative. Right? So for me, it's economics is more interesting than mathematics. Another person can say, no, I don't like, I hate economics, I like business mathematics. A mathematician can say. Therefore, it is normative. Judgment. So always you have to ask whether there's a judgmental part. Now these days, the very interesting issue is there in Sri Lanka, use of the organic fertilizer. You can make two statements. One statement which is positive, and I can extend that to become a normative statement. Positive statement, right? Application of use of organic fertilizer in the short run will decrease the production level of most of the crops. Positive. Now, because the earlier they were used to have this the chemical fertilizer. Therefore, now all of a sudden we say it is organic fertilizer. Production level of paddy, tea, the coconut may be some exemption in there. Coconut actually large state coconut states are there. Most of the around 60-70% coconuts are the grown the household wise, right? Domestically, right? But the paddy, tea, different. Domestic initially, scientists have been estimated there is a production drop. Positive. In the short run, use of organic fertilizer would reduce the production level of some crops. Now I can extend that. In the short run, use of production the organic fertilizer would reduce the production level of some crops, but in the long run, it might mitigate the kidney ailment, kidney disease of the people in the North Central province, right? That is, at that point, one can argue, no, there is no connection between the disease, kidney disease, and the chemical fertilizer. Therefore, you can't say so. Judgmental part is there. Whole statement becomes positive. First statement, use of organic fertilizers would decrease the production of some crops. It is positive. When you extend that, but in the long run, it would reduce the kidney disease of the people living in North Central province. That is it is judgmental part. No? You can't say no, there is no connection. Therefore, it is a normative on judgment. Whole statement would be normative, right? Micro versus macro. Coconut production decreased due to severe drought in producing districts. Micro, one particular product, micro. Second one, unemployment rate is less than 5%. Macro, big issue, economy-wide issue. You see the economy through a telescope. Unemployment. Coconut production, small issue, small market, small crop, one particular crop, micro. Sri Lanka economy has been growing at the rate of 7% per annum. Macro, MA, huge. Overall economy is growing at the rate of 7%. Insurance industry is becoming more competitive. One particular industry. It's not economy-wide thing. In the financial sector, there is an industry, insurance may be the one particular industry. There are so many other things. Commercial banks are there, primary dealers are there, leasing companies are there, insurance industry. It's micro. Micro. Right. This, of course, define the following terms. I will give you the definition. And the opportunity cost we have already discussed. Unemployment rate, I will give you the definition. Now, this question. A Korean professor who was invited to deliver a lecture on a few lessons of financial sector consolidation in Korea. Financial sector consolidation means in the Korea, there are a large number of banks, thousands of banks, thousands of finance companies, thousands of leasing companies. Then 1980s, 90s, the government wanted to some are profit, some are making profit, some are making huge profit, some are losing, consumers are, the clients are affected, their income is affected, some the leasing companies, the finance companies collapse. Therefore, the customers were affected, and as a result, government introduced a policy to consolidate, reduce, bring down the number of banks, number of leasing companies, number of the finance companies. They give some regulations. Regulations were issued to consolidate. Giants, big companies can buy, take over these small companies like that. This process is called consolidation of financial sector. That's better, can improve the overall efficiency. Even Sri Lanka also, we are doing slowly, but it was a proposal in 2015, but it is now not that, right? Here also we have large number of finance companies, banks, 25, 26 finance companies, legal and illegal, both finance companies, right? So then the consolidation is must. Most of the countries, they started. Okay, now the Korean lesson, Korea, at that time, we invited this professor to deliver a lecture on this consolidation. Arrived Colombo Bandaranaike International Airport, midnight from Seoul. At the end of his presentation, he said, he has been to Sri Lanka earlier. He said he had visited Sri Lanka in the year 2000. Now this is in 2015 maybe. And pleased to see the changes being taken place in the city today. Some of his observations were BIA, Bandaranaike International Airport, has become a very busy airport. 2015. Now he was there in 2000, right? During the peak of war. Busy airport. There were large numbers of passengers both at the arrival and departure gates. 2015. Now he's telling. Now I see it's a huge. Lots of the people are there going and coming in and going out. All bank branches at BIA were crowded with customers. Number of money changers in the city has increased. Money changers. You can change money, you can change dollars, you can buy and sell dollars, right? There are large numbers of eating places in the city. The security checkpoints in the city have been abolished. In 2015, after the war, right? Abolished. Franchise shops of international food chains such as Pizza Hut, McDonald's, KFC, Domino, Bread Talk have opened their branches in the city. Of course, the Bread Talk, I think they shut down last time. Sometimes some of their branches because of the COVID issue. That's a different thing. But in 2015, there were lots of franchise shops. Pizza Hut, McDonald's, KFC, Domino, and Bread Talk have opened their branches in the city. Several highways have been constructed, and a few other are being constructed. Even in the midnight, a large number of vehicles and people are in the city. According to his observations, indicate which of the following reasons gives the most relevant. There are 5 reasons. Maybe all are relevant, but you have to select the most relevant explanation. What is that? A, B, C, D, E. What is that? Colombo is becoming a popular tourist destination. B, more Sri Lankans now travel abroad. C, increasing number of Sri Lankans could now afford buying their meals outside. D, there are lots of economic activities in Colombo and suburbs today. E, banking business at the BIA is profitable. What is the most relevant explanation? A, B, C, D, E. Yes, tell me. Yes? Hello?
A.
Hello? Yeah? Sorry?
D?
D. You said D, no?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
D is correct. lots of economic activities in Colombo. All are relevant. Colombo is becoming tourist destination. Yes, more people are coming. More Sri Lankans now travel abroad. Yes, relevant. Increase in number of Sri Lankans could now afford buying their meals outside. Yes, that's why they have the franchise shops now. People once in a while they go to Pizza Hut, McDonald's. You can afford. Affordability is there. People real income has increased. That's why that is retail trading. They are retail trading coming. So that's one. E is banking business at the BIA is profitable. You can say yes, that is one particular activity. But broadly speaking, D, there are lots of economic activities. Underline these economic activities in Colombo and suburbs today, right? Economic activities. Now they ask, next question they ask, what economic activities that we can identify from his observations? What economic activities? What are the economic activities? Tell me when you go to that. Yeah. Yes. What are the activities? Sorry.
Construction.
Construction. Good. Then.
Tourism.
Banking. Tourism. Security services. Right. Then. What are the other things? What are the other things? Retail trading, because the franchise shop, they are doing retail trading. Pizza Hut, McDonald's, retail and wholesale trading, retail trading, right? Security, construction, tourism, retail trading, then transportation, number of vehicles and people are in the city, right? Then what else? Banking, another activity. Banking, construction, money changing, another activity. Money changing, right? The tourism, retail trading, all are economic activities, right? When countries developing, when per capita income is rising, increasing, more and more economic activities emerging. At the same time, existing economic activity, their volume and the value increases. That is the development. Generation of more economic activities or the upliftment of existing economic activities increasing. That is the development. That is the increasing per capita income. There are lots of economic activities. Next question. So you can say around 5, 6, 7 economic activities can be identified. More economic activities mean more employment. Do you agree? Explain briefly. What do you think? True or false? Agree? Yes, more economic activities implies more employment. You agree? True or false? You agree? Yes? What do you think? What do you think? True or false? More economic activities mean more employment? Yes? More employment? Yes.
True.
True. Very good. You want to generate more and more economic, you have to need people, factors of production, right? More employment. Now, when you say now, in general, statement is true. We agree. But explain briefly means you can say some economic activity. When you generate economic, when you increase an economic value or the volume, new economic activity, you need factors of production, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. When you say employment, employment of labor, employment of capital, employment of land, you can separately discuss, right? Labor employment. Some economic activities might not increase labor employment. They might increase capital employment. Without generating labor employment, you can increase economic activity. The e-business, you don't have only machine base, right? Very few the labor. Now, if you want to buy a magazine, a book from a fashion book from a foreign country, you go to their particular website and put the order, give your credit card details, and place the order. Following day, after 2 days time, maybe following day, book will come to the doorstep from US, right? DHL will deliver that thing. Now, most of these online companies, online business, they don't have that much of the labor employment. They are machine-based activities, right? So in general, the statement is correct, but economic activity, some economic activity might generate not labor employment, but capital employment, more machines-based, more machines, not labor, not men. Like that you can explain, but anyway, in general, it is the employment of labor, employment of capital, employment of land, it might increase. That's true. Right, okay. Please go through, it's a good question. To identify what are the economic activities, then the employment of labor and employment of capital. Now these things, unemployment, opportunity cost, the cost of best foregone alternative. Unemployment rate, percentage you can take down, of course. The percentage of people in the labor force without jobs. Percentage of individuals in the labor force. The labor force is must without jobs. So the total population in the country, we divide into two. Those who are in the labor force, not in labor force. Total population is equal to labor force plus not in labor force. Labor force again divided into two, employed, unemployed. Not in labor force is minors, pensioners, full-time students, full-time the housewives. They are not in labor force. But in labor force, employed people in the labor force. Unemployed people, you are without a job, but they are looking for a job, seeking for a job, actively seeking jobs. That is, then you are unemployed. Housewife, they don't actively seeking work, they are not in the labor force. Minors, small kids, they don't want to do jobs, right? That is, they are not in the labor force. Pensioners, they are not in the labor force. Sometimes some pensioners work, but generally they are not in the labor force. They are pensioners, they are not in the labor force. When you say in the labor force, when you say person in the labor force, unemployed stock, without job is not a qualification. You are without a job. Suppose your mother is not working, you can't say she is unemployed. Right? You can't say that. But your brother, he studied, he is looking for a job, he is without a job, he is looking for a job, actively seeking work. Then he is unemployed. Your mother is housewife. You can't say your mother is unemployed, but your brother is unemployed. Why is that? He is actively seeking work. He send application, contact people, like that. First you are getting the training. Sometimes you are getting internships, like that. Actively seeking work. That's important. Without job is not a criteria in economics, right? So the unemployment rate is the percentage of individuals in the labor force without jobs. Inflation rate, percentage increase, the percentage increase in the price index, the consumer price index, the percentage increase in the price index. For example, to measure the inflation rate, even in Sri Lanka, we have the new consumer price index. Earlier, we had Colombo Consumer Price Index. It is compiled by the Department of Census and Statistics. Every month, they publish the value of the CCPI or NCPI. Let's say June, number is 100 index. July, end of July, it went up to 110. Price index June, value is 100. End of June. End of July, it increased to, suppose, 110. Then percentage increase is 10%. We said between June and July, the general price level has risen by 10%. Inflation rate is the percentage change in the consumer price index. Consumer price index. Sri Lanka, we have the Colombo Consumer Price Index, or NCPI, New Consumer Price Index. In India, you have WPI, Wholesale Price Index. The US, you have the CPI, Consumer Price Index, like that. Different countries use price indices, price index, to measure the inflation rate, right? Now these days, price level, prices, individual prices of some items, most of the vegetables expensive, the fish expensive, right? The some vegetables prices have come down, some are expensive, right? So the average price level, general price level, you take a basket of goods, some prices are rising, some are falling, some are constant, like that. But increase in general price level is the continuous rise in the general price level is called inflation. Continuous rise in the general price level is called inflation. How do you measure? Using the price index. Inflation rate, 10%, 15%. Inflation rate, percentage increase in the price level. Percentage increase in the price index is the inflation rate. Economic growth rate. Economic growth rate is again percentage change in the gross domestic product, GDP. I'm sorry. Percentage increase in the GDP, gross domestic product, GDP. The rate. Now, most of the countries in the world recorded negative growth rate in their economies for 2020. Even Sri Lanka, our growth rate was negative 3.5%. Negative means economic activity shrinking of the economy, shrinkage of the economy. Expansion of the economy is a growth. Growth rate is positive. When economic activity is shrinking, we have no tourism, no retail trade, no the wholesale trade, then the domestic trade, then you have the fall in activities in terms of tourism, in terms of exports. Imports also decrease. Imports, then the manufacturing sector activities decrease, shrinking of activity. That is for negative growth rate. We had 3.5% negative growth rate. But most of the countries in the world, even US, the Thailand, Malaysia, you can go to Google and check the growth rate. Type the economic growth rate of world economies in 2020. Economic growth rate of world economies in 2020. Then they will give the growth rate. Majority of countries reported negative growth rate, minus. Right? Per capita income. Per capita income is per person income. Ours, in dollar terms, ours per capita income is the $4,000 per person. How do you get that? You divide the GDP, overall GDP, total GDP by the mid-year population. Per capita income is the ratio, proportion, proportion. Per capita income is calculated by dividing GDP by population. GDP divided by mid-year population is defined as the per capita income. Total GDP, total, divided by mid-year population, 21.2 people, right? That is the per capita income. So the rich countries, the higher per capita income, around $40,000 per person, $25,000 per person. Ours is $4,000 per person. Then some of the poor African countries, they are very low per capita income. Right. So the Per capita, if you rank countries according to the per capita income, it is the ranking of development. Ranking of development, right? Per capita income. Please go to the recommended textbook. I gave last time. I gave you 2 textbooks written by one Mr. Karunatilaka, CPA Karunatilaka, and the Lipsy and Crystal. And also you can go to Google and put define unemployment rate, define inflation rate, define economic growth rate. They'll give the answer, right? Okay. Now we'll finish this lesson. Please answer these questions again. Go through your notes and write the answers in a separate sheet. I gave you lots of explanation. I want to give the explanations also. Understand the explanations. Then keep these answers in the separate file. If you want to get it photocopies, the practice question number 1 and the answer scripts separately. Your answers, maintain the separate file. So every lesson I will give you this kind of practice question quizzes, right? Okay. Now we'll move to the today's lesson, that is principles of economics, demand, supply, and the market. Any question? Ask me. 11:42. Yes, we can finish 11:42. Yes, we can finish some of this section.
So this consumer price index.
Yes.
Does it mean that the measuring of the price level, is it the same thing?
Yes. Consumer price index, in the compilation of consumer price index has several steps. Actually, you measure, there are a basket of goods, right, and services, basket of goods and services, right? The food items, non-food items, housing items, then the clothing items, like that. For major categories, 5-7 categories of this, the broad category, there are basket of goods and services, around 300 items, around 700 items, NCPI, I think around 700 items. So every month you measure the price of this item, price of kilogram of rice, because they have the variety of rice, particular variety of the dal, particular variety of sugar, particular variety of fish. Fish may be large number of items are there. You go to the market and measure prices in that month or in that week. Next month also you go to the market and measure the prices of same identical items, prices. Using these prices in a particular week, you calculate the price index. Price index, the formula is called Laspeyres price index. Laspeyres price index. So it's a ratio of Pi Q naught divided by P naught Q naught based on this is a ratio. Laspeyres price. Business mathematics, you have this Laspeyres price index. You calculate price index. So it is aggregate. It represents the price level of that basket of goods and services. Price level. It's a unitless. It is not in rupees. You calculate, collect the prices in rupees. But once you put that into the formula, you get a unitless index, 100. Next month, again you collect the prices in rupees, plug that into the formula, you get unitless concept. Let's say that index is 110, percentage increase in price level is 10%. That is called inflation. So price index measures the average price level in the economy. There are millions of goods and services. You can't get the prices of all these goods and services, no? That's why you can compile a basket of goods and services, representative basket of goods and services. Then you measure the price level. Using those prices are increasing, some prices are increasing, some are decreasing, some are constant. So aggregate price level. Lassapier's formula represents the average price level in the economy, in that basket of goods. Percentage change in the price level in this basket is called the inflation rate. Yes, you are right. Price index measures the price level in the economy. Price level in the economy. Right. New question. Right. Now we demand and supply. Demand, supply and the market. Lesson 2. Those who cannot see this one, next week you will get the link, right? Don't worry about this. Principles of yes. So you may remember last slide of the previous lesson. In the market, this is the circulation of macroeconomy. We said households, government, firms. Then you have the foreign sector. So 4 sectors: household sector, government sector, or the government, business sector, firms, and the foreign sector. Markets: labor market, financial market, goods market. Then market forces: demand and supply. Other economic activities, other interactions: taxes, transfers. Government tax, companies, TC. Government tax, households, the private taxes, income taxes. Again, government give transfers to the companies, to the individual, TRH. Transfers: midday meal, free uniform, free textbooks. Transfers to the household, right? Transfers to the companies also. Then household save, SH. Companies save, SC. Government save, SG. All these savings are pooled, come to the financial market. The financial market, there are lots of players. Large number of players: commercial banks, primary dealers, leasing companies, insurance companies, finance companies. Some players are there. Market, all the market. When you say market, lots of other markets, individual small markets are there. Labor market, it's not a one market. Large number of markets are there, right? Billions of markets. Labor market. The goods market. Foreign market is the import and export trade. That is the main activity, imports and exports, foreign sector. Every country has the rest of the world. Country, rest of the world, another important sector, import-export trade. Right? So that is, now this, how many household in today, in Sri Lanka generally, how many household in the country? How many households? Or how to calculate households in the country? How to calculate the number of households in the country? Rough estimate? Can you think of rough estimate? How many households? What is the population? Sri Lanka's population is how much? Tell me, roughly, approximately how much? Sorry?
21 million.
21 million, good. 21 million. Right. Then that is 21 million individuals in the country, right? Then what is the household size of the country? Household size, number of individuals per household, average, on average. What is the household size? Average, on average, how much? How many people are in the household? On average, that is using surveys, census and statistics department, they conduct the once in every 5 years. Sometimes they calculate the census or during censuses or some surveys based. Your households, average household size in Sri Lanka is how much? How much? 3, 4, 2, 4. Okay, good. Rough 4. Still it is 4. It is coming down. 4. Then 21 individual, 21 million divided by 4. Divided by 4. 5 point something, 5.2 million households in this country. 21 divided by 4. 5.2. Yes, 21 divided by 4, 5. Yes, the one. Yes, 5.25 household in the country. Very rough estimate. 5.2 million, right? The country. A household size. What is happening to household? If you see the household size from 1950 to 2020, What is happening to the household size in the country? Falling or increasing, decreasing or increasing? Like 1950s, 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, average household size. What is happening to our average household size? It is falling, decreasing. You may see, talk to your father's family, father's family, grandfather's family, big families. Earlier, it was around the 10, 12 people, sometimes 12. My neighbor, Mr. Herat, his family has the 10, the 12, the brothers and sisters, right? So it is coming down. It was coming down. 10, then 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. It is sometimes now is most of the families on average it is 4, but generally it is the 2, sometimes none, right? So the household size is falling. Demographic, rather the important demographic trend in the country, right? Demographic economics, they discuss those things very detailed. Why? Why does this household size is falling? Because more and more people are getting educated now. People's perceptions change, right? Earlier, our female women were not working. Mothers, grandmothers were they were not working. They were at home, right? So you can maintain the big families, 10, 8, 6 people. You can maintain. Mother is there at home. Now, both are working. So both are working. You cannot maintain a big family. Maximum 2, maximum 3, 2 or 1, sometimes 0. Now the world trend in developed countries. It's a very interesting trend is there in the US. Lots of big cities, California, Washington, Michigan. So the big cities, large number of the people, percentage of people living alone, going solo. Percentage is very high. No families. You are living alone, not getting married, right? So that is another trend in some countries. You can't say it is good or bad. It is an individual's decision, right? So those countries, they say, due to various reasons, maybe freedom. Well, one thing is that they have enough income, good social security schemes. They have security also. So going solo is not a problem in those countries, not that much of problem. But here in Sri Lanka, it could be a problem because the security-wise or the money-wise or could be a problem. But going solo is a trend in most of the countries, right? In most of the developed countries, right? In our country, of course, the family system is there, but the household size is falling. Household size is falling. Now it is 4 on average. But if you see among most of the educated families, it is the 2, 1, 3 like that. Okay, that is about it. All these things are related to economics, right? Now the thing is, yes, how now government is a giant. Government, if you take any country, government is the largest debtor. Government is the largest income earner. Government budget has a huge influence on the economy. You take any country, US Fed, the Nigeria or the Thailand, India, government is huge. So government, so the decision making process is the government is different from the private firms. How does the government take decision? Budget. November 6th in our country, every year, there's a budget. In that budget, government say, according to their political vision, they say, these are the estimated revenue for the next year. This is the estimated expenditure for the next year. So this will be the deficit for the next year. We have deficit, we don't have a surplus. Very few years you had surplus long time ago. But at the moment, we have deficit. Revenue estimate, expenditure estimate, deficit estimate. Then how to finance this deficit estimate? So expenditure estimate, they give for education, this much, health, this much, road sector, this much, millions, right? Banking development, this much, electricity generation, so. So therefore, government allocate resources through their budget, through the government budget. How does the government allocate resources? Through the budget. What are the key components? Revenue, expenditure, deficit, deficit financing, proposals, right? So in November 6 this year, November 6, Honorable Finance Minister, now we have new Prime Minister, no? Honorable Prime Minister is now, Finance Minister is now a new Minister, Mr. Basil Rajapaksa. Honorable Basil Rajapaksa. Recently, we have new Finance Minister, so Mr. Basil Rajapaksa will present his budget speech on November 6. Now, this budget speech is for the coming year, 2022. 2022 revenue estimate, 2022 expenditure estimate, 2022 deficit, 2022 financing of deficit. That is the key component of this. So, expenditure, you allocate financial resources among different the economic activities, different ministries, right? Key component, revenue, expenditure, deficit, deficit financing. Deficit financing is that. Revenue, how does the bank generate, government generate income? Taxes. Government as an entity, one unit, is a very lazy. So once if you are working, you have to work hard. You have to go to office 8 o'clock, then work till about 4:30, and then compulsory OT, another 2 hours, compulsory OT. Then you work hard. You're tired. But government as a unit, as a one unit, one sector, is very lazy. Government doesn't work. As a unit, remember. Government lives on other people's money, taxes. Main source of revenue of the government is, if you take government is like big giant, this giant is not working. Live on other people's money, taxes, direct taxes, indirect taxes, direct taxes, indirect taxes. Gone. How does the private sector allocate resources? Through market mechanism. Now, this is the subject matter today's lesson. Through market mechanism, demand and supply. Demand for rice, Supri Kiri Samba, supply of Supri Kiri Samba rice. Determine the price of kilogram of Supri Kiri Samba. Why I am saying Supri Kiri Samba? Yesterday I checked with this the Apico, lots of the huge the stock of the Supri Kiri Samba. I checked the price, 205 rupees per kg and 210 rupees per kg. Very expensive, right? Supri Kiri Samba. But the red raw red, that is about 98, 93, 94. So that is so it's a demand and supply. Private sector allocate resources, financial resources using the demand and supply. If there is a huge demand for face mask, private sector start producing companies, forming companies of buying machines to produce face masks. Now there's a huge demand for in the world vaccination, vaccine. Yesterday, WHO chief said don't relax the current restrictions in the economy, because England is going to completely relax the country. He don't do that. One of the reasons is this new variant of, now we have come to up to the alpha, beta, delta, the gamma has come, they are spreading very fast, number one. Number two is our stock of vaccines are not enough. Some African countries have not got vaccine at all. We are a bit lucky, right? Around 1/3 of the around 3 million individuals divided by 21 million, 21 million, nearly about the 11%, 10% have been vaccinated now. 3 million, around 3 million, no? 3 million divided by 21, yes, 171, yeah. 3, yeah, around, that's a good, no. 3 million, 21, 21. That's good, no? Not 3 million, still 2.2 million something total population. Yes, not we have not yet vaccinated around 10% of the population. Less than that, around 5%. Let's say calculate that. How many every day you are in the television you can see the number of total number of vaccinated, those who are getting the both vaccines. Then you get that number divided that by the population. Then you can calculate percentage, right? Percentage. So that is the reason vaccines are not enough in the worldwide. We are borrowing, we are spending lots of money to get that one. Still scarcity of the vaccines. Then what will happen? Private companies, that is, they have demand, huge demand. Now in the world, in the developed countries, more and more companies now start producing different varieties of the vaccines. Allocate resources using the demand. Demand is huge for the vaccines. They allocate resources for that. Private sector allocate resources using the demand and supply market mechanism. If there's huge demand, they allocate resources. They go to that sector, penetrate. If there is no demand, they withdraw from that sector. Right? That's the thing. What is the market? Market mechanism is the interaction between demand and supply. Interaction between demand and supply. Well, yes, we have half an hour, right? Now we'll discuss two. It is the allocation of resources by the government. We have discussed, we have separate lecture on budget, right? Once you start the macroeconomics. Now this lesson is so the demand and supply forces, allocation of resources by the private sector, that is called the market mechanism, that is through the interaction between demand and supply. Now in this lesson, we are going to discuss first demand side, demand curve, demand function, demand schedule, demand curve, law of demand. Next, we will discuss supply schedule, supply function, supply schedule, supply curve. Then we combine these two, demand and supply force. Sometimes some countries influence these market forces. Government purposely influence, affect this one. Now, this government issued a circular putting some maximum price for the rice, control price for rice, control price for sugar, control price for the medicine, right? So that is government influence, affect the government regulations are issued to control the prices. Free market purely determined by the demand and supply. Nowadays, now I said that you can check that in the supermarket, price of Supriviki, a kilogram of Supriviki, they have 5 packs and 10 kg pack, 200 rupees. I usually at home, I don't eat Supriviki. I am from down south. I usually eat the red roll, right, at home. So we are lucky. We're relatively lucky. Around less than 100 rupees, you can buy the rice, right? I think yes, 90 something. So therefore, then the demand side, supply side, market price. Then the effects of control prices we'll discuss. A market, first the market. What is a market? A market is a set of arrangements by which buyers and sellers are in contact to exchange goods or service. Some market physically bring together the buyer and the seller. Buyer is there, seller is there. To understand this, you can think about that the Sunday polar, Sunday fair. Buyer, you are the buyer. Sellers are there, lot of sellers are there. Even supermarket, there's a difference between the market and the supermarket. But market, when you go to supermarket, you are the buyer. Market is the seller. Prices are tagged. Other markets, some market physically you can see the buyer and the seller. But other markets operate mainly through intermediaries. Now this term comes again. Intermediaries. Share dealers, share brokers, intermediaries. Finance companies, intermediaries. Banks, intermediaries. Some other markets operate mainly through intermediaries. Good example is a share market. Share market, if you want to buy some share, you don't go to the share market and ask for the shares. You simply call your share broker. I want to buy 1,000 shares of this particular company. Please arrange for me. Share broker has all the information about the suppliers, sellers. Then he link this intermediaries, but he earn some commission from both sides. Examples of two types of market, that is the Sunday fair, supermarkets, market price, retail shops, grocery shops. They are the example for the first type of market, physically bring together. You can see the buyer and the seller. But the second type of markets, buyer and the seller invisible. E-commerce, you can't see the buyer and the seller, right? E-channeling also, buyer and the seller you can't see. You call 225, call the e-channeling, the intermediary that this girl is there, he get all the requirement, then he place the order, he give us the consultancy, he send us a receipts, right? He or she send us the receipts, right? That is, you don't see the buyer and the seller. Hospital, Asir is there, you are the buyer. So intermediaries, this market operates, right? That is the intermediaries, stock market, e-channeling, e-commerce. These are the some examples. Now we discuss demand function. We are going to discuss what is the demand function. Demand function means if you take a quantity demanded of a good, depends what are the factors that affect the quantity demanded of a good. Price is the key. Then there are other factors. Prices of other goods. Price of substitute goods or of complementary goods. Then prices of other goods. If you want to buy a fish, chicken, demand for chicken depends on price of chicken. Key, number one. Then you check price of other types of meat, price of fish, price of canned fish, so many other things. Now these days there's a huge scarcity of canned fish. Yesterday I checked the supermarket, no canned fish at all. Possibly the reason is this. One of the reasons may be supply may be less. Another reason is people's attitudes have changed. Still, the some people are reluctant to eat fish. Therefore, they might go for canned fish, right? So canned fish. So price of the related good, price of chicken, prices of other type of meat, price of fish, like that. Canned fish, consumers' income, another factor. We don't have enough income. We all will be doing the window shopping, right? Window shopping, consumers' income. For example, I can remember when I was working at the central bank, sometimes next to the World Trade Center, huge the Lamborghinis and very advanced cars were there parked, demonstrated. There, we just go and see. Okay, what are the facilities, options are there? The prices, of course, you can't afford window shopping. Quantity demanded depends on consumers' income. Enough income should be there, right? Income is there. Taste, likes and dislikes. Taste. Sometimes some people like only blue colors, green colors, red colors. Or some people, sometimes some don't like to eat fish, eat meat, right? Only vegetarians are there. Sometimes even the vegetarians, sometimes some vegetarians eat only the eggs, no milk, right? No animal based anything. That's it, completely. So there are different names are there. His taste, expected future price, another factor that affects the quantity demanded of a good. Today's demand depends on tomorrow's price, future price, expected future price of the good, right? So the today's demand for cars, my demand for cars depends on next month price. If I want to buy a car, I check, okay, what will happen to the price of cars next month? Will there be an increase in price of a car? If I expected price is high, will go up, I'll demand the car. I want to buy the car. Today's demand depends on tomorrow's price, next year price, expected price. Gold. If you think gold price will go up, still now these days gold price is hovering is around 100,000, more than 100,000 rupees. Sovereign, right? Expensive. 2-3 years ago it was around 50,000, 65,000. Now expensive. If they expect sovereign price will go up, further going up 100,000, 150,000, 120,000 next month, next 2-3 months. If you want to buy, you demand today. You want to buy jewelries, buy today. If you expected future price of gold will be higher in the next month, so you buy the today. So the quantity demanded, current demand depends on expected price. Let's summarize this now. Quantity demanded of a particular good depends on price of that good, prices of other goods, maybe substitutes or complements, consumer's income, expected future price of the good. Then number of consumers, right? After this, the burning of ships as a result, the number of consumers in the fish consumers went down. Drastically, it went down. People didn't want to eat fish, like tsunami. Tsunami period also, no demand for fish at all. Big fish, especially. People didn't eat. Taste changes. Number one is the taste changes. Number of consumers decrease. Here also because of this, some people didn't want to eat fish, but I myself at my home, I didn't cut down the fish consumption, so I ate fish. Right? Because these fish, I know this. The people catch this tuna and other big fish a long time ago, far away, 5, 6, 10 kilometers away from this one. So therefore, I decided to eat. At home, I also eat fish, right? So it's not an issue. So number of consumer. Now this function is called, if you define all the factors, include all the factors that affect the quantity demanded of a good, that is called the demand function. Quantity demanded of good day depends on price of good day, PO, prices of other goods, consumer's income, I, taste, expected future price of good day, number of consumers. I think I have defined that. Please take down that also. Yeah, I have given that, no? Price of the good, prices of other goods, related goods, consumer's income, taste, expected future price, and so on. Number of consumers. Right? Then demand schedule. Demand schedule. A demand schedule means now complete demand function is there. So you can't study this all the factors simultaneously. Very complicated. Therefore, in economics, we have some strategy. We assume, other than the price, all the other factors are held constant. Prices of other goods, constant. Income, constant. Taste, fixed, constant. Number of consumers, fixed in the market. Then if they are fixed, if they are not variable, if they are fixed, quantity demanded of A depends only on the price. when other factors are held constant. What are the other factors other than the price of the good? The quantity demanded depends only on the price of the good, which is known as demand schedule. Demand function, you have about 6 factors: PA, PO, I, T, PAE, C. If you fix all the other 5 factors, quantity demanded depends on PA. This relationship is called demand schedule. When you derive demand schedule, there is a very strong assumption. Other factors are constant. Consumers' income constant. Prices of related good constant. Taste constant. Like that. Why do we do that? Because we can't study demand function, the whole demand function simultaneously. Then you truncate that. You simplify that. Demand schedule. Then demand curve. Now, if you have the demand schedule, we have only 2 variables: quantity demanded and the price. 2 axes: quantity demanded and the price. Quantity demanded along the x-axis, price along the y-axis. The graphical representation of the demand schedule is called demand curve. Quantity demanded along the x-axis, price along the y-axis. Now, if maybe in this class, some of you may be doing mathematics, A-level, O-levels, or degree mathematics. When you draw this graph, x-axis, generally we put independent variable, x, y dependent variable. Now this is interesting. What is independent variable here? P. Dependent variable, QD. In the graph, you put QD dependent variable along the x-axis, independent variable along the y-axis. Mathematically, it is wrong. But this is economics. Right? In economics, mathematically correct one is also we draw this price along the x-axis, quantity demanded along the y-axis. That curve is called inverse demand curve. This is the tradition. From the tradition, from 1930s, economists use QD along the x-axis, dependent variable along the x-axis, independent variable along the y-axis. Other demand curve is called mathematically consistent demand curve is called inverse demand curve. In that case, independent variable x-axis, dependent variable y-axis. But both are downward sloping. Downward sloping. What does that mean? Higher the price, lower the demand. Higher the price, lower is the demand. Lower is the demand. Lower the price, higher is the demand. Negative relationship between quantity demanded and the price. Now, this negative demand, negative slope is explained by the very fundamental law in economics, a basic law in economics. That is called the law of demand. Okay, the law of demand I have not given, but I want to take down this question. State the law of demand. State the law of demand. Please go through the book and answer this question. State the law of demand. If you write there's a negative relationship between quantity demanded and the price, if they, in the examination, if they ask state the law of demand, if you write to answer as there's a negative relationship between quantity demanded and the price, you get 0 marks. You don't get. Why? Because you have to qualify. There is a negative relationship between quantity demand and the price when other factors are held constant. Then you get full marks. If you simply say there is a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded, you don't get marks. It is not the law of demand. You have to qualify. This condition is called ceteris paribus. Other factors are held constant. Latin term is ceteris paribus. When other factors are held constant, there is a negative relationship between quantity demanded of fish and the price of fish. Quantity demanded of chicken and price of chicken. Quantity demand of rice and the price of rice. when other factors are held constant for demand price. That's also important. Other factors constant. Along this demand curve, consumers' income, taste, future price, expected future price, number of consumers, constant. Every point they are constant, fixed. They are constant, fixed. Ceteris paribus. Now, this is another important thing about this economics. Economics, if you want to analyze something, discuss something, you simplify that. In the textbooks, you simplify. In the textbooks, is how do you simplify? Other factors are given. Ceteris paribus. When other factors are given, this is the relationship between price and quantity demand. But when you go to the applied real economy, it's very difficult to explain these things. So that's a difference between applied economics and textbooks economics. Textbook economics, most of the textbook analysis assumes other factors are held constant. But the applied economics, you don't have a choice. You can't keep this variable constant. But the basic theory is there. Actual behavior may be different. Actual behavior may be different, right? You can't fix those factors, right? Applied and theoretical, this is one of the important difference between these things, right? Okay. Now, we go to the quantity supply. Like the demand side, first we define the supply function. Then we define supply schedule. After that, the curve. Supply curve. Right. What else in the demand side? What else I have to show this? Yes. So a demand curve is generally downward sloping. Generally, there is a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded when other factors are held constant. What does that mean? When price of the good increases, quantity demanded decreases. Price increases, quantity demanded decreases. They are moving opposite direction. But there are some goods, some services. Some goods or service, there are very few. Opposite to that, violate this normal behavior. Here what will happen when price increases, quantity demand decreases. That's a negative relationship. But these goods, there are some few goods, some other goods, these goods, positive relationship. When price increases, quantity demand increases. Price decreases, quantity demand decreases. Positively slope demand curve. That's interesting. There are some goods. When price increases, quantity demand increases. Price decreases, quantity demand decreases. In this case, when price increases, quantity demand decreases. Can you give me example for this kind of goods or service?
Giffen good?
Sorry?
Giffen goods?
Giffen goods, yes. Giffen good is a name coming from this Arthur Giffen. So Arthur Giffen, English economist, he observed in Scotland there are some among very poor people. When the price increases, the demand for the potatoes also increase. When price decreases, demand for potatoes decrease. Right? Nowadays, people say this the positively sloped demand curve is a theoretical concept only. There is no such given good. They say this only theoretically you can say that. Right? What happened is in this Scotland, among very poor people, the subsistence level, the people income is very low. Right? When price increases, they want to buy more and more potatoes because they cut all the other consumption and buy more and more potatoes. Right? They can't cut. They cut down other things, increase the amount. Right? This is potato is a staple food for them. Right? So it's Arthur Giffen. He observed and he said this is a positive. So they have positive slope demand curve, and he named that as a Giffen good. Arthur Giffen. Right? But nowadays, economists believe it's only the theoretical concept. Giffen good is still in most of the textbooks. Yes, you are right. They give that. Another categories of goods, speculative goods. Investment, speculative goods, shares. When price of share increases, people want to buy more and more shares of that. When price of a brand X increases, demand for those shares increases. The J&K increases, price of J&K shares increases, people want to buy more shares of them. Speculative goods. Another example, the positive slope demand curve. Positive slope demand curve. Another example is antiques. Antiques. Their demand also, when price increases, demand increases. Antiques and precious and semi-precious goods, precious and some arts, right? For example, Leonardo da Vinci, Leonardo da Vinci, no? The arts, huge demand. When price increases, the demand increases. Sometimes some people want to steal those arts pieces. Then precious and semi-precious metals, antiques, then Giffen goods, speculative goods. These are the few categories of goods that violate this normal pattern, contradict this normal pattern. They have upward sloping demand, right? But in the textbooks, there are some examples. Please read that. Take down this question. Give examples. Give a few examples that shows, that violates, that contradicts the normal pattern of the demand curve. Few examples that has positive slope demand curve. What are these? Speculative goods, Giffen goods, precious and semi-precious goods. Example, antiques, like that. Shares, right? These are some of the example for this. Right. At this point, I will stop because the supply side. Please read this. Please read, and similarly we come to the supply schedule, supply function, supply schedule, supply curve, then supply. The positive slope supply curve. Then the market price, equilibrium price. We'll discuss. Then we'll discuss the if all these demand and supply curves assume other factors are held constant. If other factors changes, what will happen to the demand curve or the supply curve? That is these are, you all are familiar with these concepts, theory, maybe in your O levels, A levels, CIMA, chartered, degree. Every time you discuss this. These are very basic. Please start reading. Next week, I might finish this quickly and discuss the next quiz. Please go through this one. Right? Okay. We'll stop now. Thank you very much. Any questions? Any questions or clarifications? Hello? Thank you very much. We'll stop now. Hello? Stop now. Hello? Any questions? Please ask me. Any questions? No? No questions? All right. Thank you.